Hey there and welcome back. My name is Xodas, and today I want to talk about legendaries. First of all, I do want to say that sorry if I sound or look a little bit rough. I have been a little bit sick, but don't worry, I am doing good and will be getting better. But yeah, if I look or sound a little rough, and apologies. Now, on my channel, I've talked a lot about legendaries or frost DKs, and there's been a lot of questions that you guys have asked me about legendaries frost DKs. And basically today, we have the simulations right here in front of us. And I want to go ahead and go over these simulations and talk about what is best in each category, each content type of the game, what's better in single target raid, what's better in Mythic Plus, what's best in PvP, and go down the list and look at what this stuff has to say. So if you like this video, please hit that like button, helps tremendously with the algorithm, and don't forget to subscribe and ring that bell notification so you get notified when I upload a video. Without any further ado, let's go ahead and hop right into it. Alright, so here we are on Blood Mallet. There will be a link to this website in the description below, but Blood Mallet essentially does a whole bunch of simulations, and it tells you a whole bunch of different stuff about your spec, and it'll tell you stuff like what legendaries are best, what races are best, secondary distributions, soul binds, talents, trinkets. It does it all. So today we're going to be looking at the legendaries, and right now we are on casting patchwork, which means that we are looking at simulations for a single target fight. This is going to be a fight that runs around 5 minutes in duration, and this means that this is going to be very indicative of a raid type scenario when you are facing a boss. So as we can see here, the list goes number 1, Corsair's Favor, winning by quite a large margin actually, as our best single target legendary. Now, when we look to spot number 2, we see Rage of the Frozen Champion, and that's not very surprising considering what you can actually do with that. And then we go into Pheromones and Biting Cold and all that kind of stuff. So now what I want to do is talk about essentially why these are so good and why you might want to consider taking what in what situations. So Corsair's Favor, of course, increases the damage of Obliterate by 10% and makes it have a 12% chance to refund 2 runes. This is amazing for getting out as many Obliterates as possible, and on top of that, increasing that Obliterate damage, which, as you guys know, is our number 1 single target damage source. So it's really strong that this legendary comes in here and allows us to cast more Obliterates, and they do more damage. It's a fairly basic one. Some people may say it's a little boring, but it is extremely effective, as we can see here. Now, some of you, especially those of you who know what Rage of the Frozen Champion is, might be wondering, why is Rage of the Frozen Champion doing so well? Something like Biting Cold or even Pheromones is actually quite stronger in on paper than just being able to get more Howling Blast procs. But it's not really being able to get more Howling Blast procs that's making a big difference here, although it certainly doesn't hurt. Is more or less the fact that you can actually get extremely long Breathless and Trigosas out of taking this legendary. 15% increased chance to trigger Rhyme is actually huge, and what you find when you play with this legendary, which, by the way, this was my favorite legendary to play with in the beta, was that you would just do Obliterate into Howling Blast proc, into Obliterate into Howling Blast proc, into Obliterate into Howling Blast proc over and over and over again, and it just never seemed to end. This is extremely powerful. It does a lot of consistent damage. If you're taking the Avalanche talent, then it hits even harder, and on top of that, you're getting all that runic power, since this does make Howling Blast generate 8 runic power while Rhyme is active, which is huge because generally Rhyme, doesn't give you runic power, and that is kind of one of the downsides to Rhyme. And so this basically allows you to use those Rhyme procs in your BOS, in your Breathless and Dracosa, when you normally wouldn't be able to. And this is just absolutely massive for having the longest Breathless and Dracosa possible. A question that I do have about this, and something that I wish that I knew someone who worked at Blood Mallet, because this is a huge question. When they're doing this, what covenant are they? Because Rage of the Frozen Champion is extremely effective, especially with the Venthyr, because Swarming Mist naturally gives you a very long Breathless and Dracosa. So pairing the Venthyr Covenant ability Swarming Mist with Rage of the Frozen Champion would be like the perfect match made in heaven. Is that being reflected here, or is this not? And that is a question that I have, because frankly, if it's not being paired with the Venthyr Swarming Mist and Breathless and Dracosa dual wield build with Avalanche, then there's a possibility in my mind that Rage of the Frozen Champion could actually compete with Corsair's Favor, especially if what we're seeing here is not that case, because it is quite effective, very, very effective, to combine it with the Venthyr Covenant. That is something that I wish I could try out myself, but due to the nature of how Covenants work, I cannot, and it's something that I wish that I knew someone at Blood Mallet so I could actually ask them directly. If you are a Venthyr Frost DK, I highly, strongly suggest picking up both Corsair's Favor and Rage of the Frozen Champion. You will need both anyways. You'll want to have both anyways. And running a test. Running a test against a raid difficulty target dummy in your Covenant Hall and seeing what is better in single target, having Corsair's Favor or Rage of the Frozen Champion. All right, so basically Corsair's Favor is your go-to for single target. However, for you Venthirs out there, I strongly suggest trying out Rage of the Frozen Champion and seeing if it closes the gap between Rage of the Frozen Champion and Corsair's, and if so, you had the liberty to choose which one, or if it's better, then you have something that no one else has, and I think that's pretty freaking cool. All right, so now let's take a look at Hectic Ad Cleave, and this is going to be more oriented towards Mythic Plus. This is going to be more oriented towards those trash packs, especially in Mythic Plus. So let's go ahead and take a look at that by coming up here to Casting Patchwork, and we click on Hectic Ad Cleave. All right, so looking at Hectic Ad Cleave, we're seeing that Biting Cold is extremely high, and something that does kind of suck is that this doesn't tell you how many targets there actually are, and that is something that kind of makes me a little sad, because that's going to make a big difference since Biting Cold is not, Remorseless Winter is not a target capped ability, but something like Rage of the Frozen Champion, Howling Blast is. So there's a very big question here, in my opinion, as to how much better is this really target for target. This is just a big question, especially with seeing Rage of the Frozen Champion once again being in the second position here. You're wondering, okay, so how many targets does it take to get this? If you are looking at 2, 3, or 4 target cleave, is Rage better? You know, that's a huge question in my mind, something that once again only a Venthyr Frost DK is really going to tell. If you are not Venthyr, then I strongly suggest sticking to Biting Cold. But if you are a Venthyr, I strongly suggest picking up Rage of the Frozen Champion and giving it a test and seeing which one's better. Take it into an M+. Just take it in there. It's not going to be like, if it is worse, it's not going to be tremendously worse, honestly. Give it a shot and see how it performs for you. But for all of you other DKs out there who are not Venthyr, I strongly suggest sticking to Biting Cold in M+. It is extremely strong. This is the legendary I've been using, and it is very, very good, very, very strong in AoE and cleave situations. Something that's very interesting here in M+ is that Corsair's Favor does fall into 3rd position, and this does make you wonder if you wanted to go for more of the boss buster kind of duty, kind of job in an M+, maybe Corsair's Favor wouldn't be that bad, and this would see your damage going as highest in boss fights, and your damage kind of leveling out a little bit during those hectic ad fights where you are just clearing and cleaving tons of ads. I think it's very interesting, and I could definitely see an argument for wanting to be a boss buster where you're running Corsair's Favor and perhaps an obliteration build, whether it be two-hand or dual wield. I can see there being a huge argument for that, and just going for the biggest DPS possible, trying to down those bosses in as short of time as possible. However, generally speaking in M+, the trash is the majority of a dungeon, and so it is generally the best move to go for being as strong against the trash packs as possible, since that is what you are primarily fighting in an M+, and for that reason I would be amiss if I recommended you guys anything other than Biting Cold. Now, what about PvP? And this is something important to understand about Sims, is that Sims do not track mechanical strength. This is why Rage of the Frozen Champion is such a big question for me in these Sims, because Rage of the Frozen Champion has extremely high mechanical strength when paired with Swarming Mist, when paired with Breathless and Dragosa. When you don't look at that side of things and you're only considering how much damage do you actually get from the Howling Blast procs, which is something that this simulation bot could very well be doing, then you start to see where a problem arises in the logic behind simulations. This is a problem that has plagued PvP forever, and why you pretty much don't ever hear about PvPers using sim bots too much. So in PvP, you are going to want Absolute Zero. Absolute Zero makes Frostborn's Fury have a 50% reduced cooldown and freeze all enemies for 3 seconds. And when it says freeze, it means stun. This one is extremely powerful, guys. It is definitely one you're going to want to have. The mechanical strength of this is immense, and the reason why it's immense is, first of all, Frost DK does not have much CC at all. Any extra CC you can get is a huge plus for a Frost DK. On top of having a new stun, a new form of CC that you have that you can use to peel DPS off of your healers, you can use to peel DPS off of you can use to interrupt casts, you can use it for all kinds of things, but primarily you're using it to set up chill streaks. This has no target cap. You can use this to stun the entire enemy team, whether you're in a battleground or you're in arena. You can stun the entire enemy team for 3 seconds. And that is absolutely massive, especially when you consider that to trinket a 3-second stun is actually a misplay. You're actually not supposed to trinket any stun that short. It's just too short of a time period. Generally speaking, if you trinket that kind of stun, then you're kind of wasting your trinket. But this works to our advantage. Because people do not want to trinket the stun, they tend to sit it. And what happens is if someone sits the stun, then you're able to open up with a chill streak. You're able to drop this chill streak into them, and it's going to bounce between them the full 9 bounces. This is going to do a tremendous amount of damage. Chill streak does insane damage. Literally can just destroy an entire enemy team with a single chill streak. And so this is extremely powerful. People are doing everything they can right now to avoid the chill streak setup. Anybody worth their salt knows that if you get set up on by a frost DK and they get that chill streak off, then you will probably die unless you can get out of the way, stop it from bouncing, or drop major CDs to try and outlive it. However, the beauty of Rage of the Frozen Champion is it's not predictable. It comes out of nowhere. You can drop it anytime you want to. It's on a relatively short CD now that is on a 50% reduced cooldown. That means 1.5 minutes. This is perfect for saving your CDs and going for multiple setups. This is an absolutely powerful ability that is going to win you games. It's going to win you games either because you get the setup and you push a tremendous amount of CDs out of the enemy team just because of the damage you're taking, or it's going to save you and win you games because you're able to stop the entire enemy team. You're able to stop all the damage, give your healer a moment to catch up, to breathe. This will give you a moment to get yourself healed up with some Lichborns. This gets the pressure off. There is a million ways you can use Absolute Zero, and it has the most mechanical strength of any legendary we have available to us. If you do not want to go for the mechanical strength, if you have a comp like Walking Dead where there's a lot of AoE stuns already and you may be worried about DRs, if you are in a situation where that is just not as ideal, then I strongly suggest Corsair's Favor. And this is going back to the Sims. It is our best single target damage legendary. It makes quite a big difference in your single target damage. And so if you're going to run a legendary, any legendary other than Absolute Zero, I strongly suggest it be Corsair's Favor. Now, I do want to talk a little bit about BGs here. We've been primarily focused on Arena. In BGs, Absolute Zero is still an absolute dream. You can literally shut down the entire enemy team, all 10 members, all 15 members, with a single Frostworn's Fury that's well placed. However, if you do not want to run Frostworn's Fury, or if you have another strategy in mind, then Biting Cold is extremely strong, especially in team fight, because it just does a lot of damage to everybody. As we saw in The Sims earlier, it pulls the best cleave damage of all of the legendaries, and it is extremely strong. Anyways, guys, thank you so much for watching. If you did, hit that like button, helps tremendously with the algorithm, and don't forget to subscribe and ring that bell notification so you get notified when I upload a video and you don't miss a thing. I hope this video was helpful, and I'll catch you guys next time. Peace.